fam! Welcome back to the channel. I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this for so long. I have two icons here. I'm so excited for this. I think this is going to be, don't shake your head. You're an icon, whether you like it or not. I'm so proud to call these people my friends. They are really two people who were at the forefront, probably two of the first people I think of when I think of people who are trying to empower parents and protect children and speak truth about this gender cult that's got their hooks in everyone. But so first we have my beloved friend, Megan Fox, journalist of PJ Media.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here, Mike. It's so good to see you. I just love seeing you. I've missed you. We haven't had we had a lot of fun back in the End Just Like That days, which, by the way, is filming in the next 3 weeks. Can you believe that?
I was wondering that today.
Yeah. It's in 3 weeks from now, they start filming that terrible shit show, and we will be on that. I'm sure I will have Mike back for a live stream about
Chris is like, I need this translated into straight guys.
I don't know what you guys are talking about, but that's
this is the Sex and the City reboot that they just completely wokeified and destroyed with gender cult ideology in it, by the way, of course.
Kids.
Wait. They made Sex and the City even worse?
Hey, it used to be good.
Now, wait a minute. We liked that show, damn it.
Okay. So, I just gave away my sexuality.
So I have to say, I'm so amazingly happy and honored that we've gotten to become friends the last few months. We went to Pride in New York together, but I've been such a fan of this guy for so long. You do the most amazing work. Everybody welcome Billboard Chris. Hello, I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here. We're gonna have fun.
Yes, definitely. So my last stream that I did, I don't drink very often, and I got off my face on half a can of watermelon margaritas. So I'm under strict orders from my dad that he was like, don't drink a sip of anything. You've got classy people on your channel tonight.
I've got ears on you. I can go for a while. Don't worry.
Anyway, hello to all of our beautiful family in the chat. We've got super chats. Send your stuff in. So I kind of want to start, Chris. So you've been basically traveling all over. Where it's so funny that just simply wearing a sign that says things that should be so common knowledge, like children cannot consent to puberty blockers, the meaning of dad, the definition of mom, and this would be controversial.
Yeah, I just go outside and talk to people and all hell breaks loose. And I've been doing this for about 2 years. Not every day, but probably every other day. Of course, when I'm on the road, it's every day, but things are evolving. I do more media and stuff now, which was kind of the plan. I figured if I just kept going out there every day, hour after hour, eventually some people might start taking notice and supporting me. And I'm getting a lot of support from the United States. So it's great.
So where have you been recently?
I was just in Washington, D.C., Chicago, Milwaukee, Springfield, Illinois. I'm heading back to D.C. in a week. And then I've got a couple speaking events in Pennsylvania. And then I'm going to Boston Children's Hospital. And then I'm going to Brown University in Rhode Island. Yeah, and Brown University I've been there once before. It was wild. That place is fun. So I'm going to go back there. And I've got a speaking event there too at night for the Independent Women's Forum. And I'm meeting a bunch of congressmen next week. And so, yeah, things are taking off.
That made me so happy when I saw you were meeting with all these congressmen and stuff, because I always tell people I honestly feel like the most important thing in trying to combat any of this is just speaking up. It's compliance and silence that have brought us to the point that we're at. So you're proof of that. Just speaking has led to so many amazing things.
Yeah, Congresswomen too, I should say. And yeah,
when
you go outside and you have faith in your fellow humanity, which I do with your fellow humans, it's the vast majority of people agree, of course, that we shouldn't sterilize kids. This is not controversial. We've got a small fringe minority, as Justin Trudeau would say, on the left who are driving this agenda, and the rest of these leftist political parties, all the politicians, are too afraid to say no. And so they just let all this crazy stuff go through, and they try to call it love and inclusion, when in fact it's just pure insanity.
Well, that's what I love too about, I'm sure you guys saw Marjorie Taylor Greene proposed a bill to outlaw this, which I think is great. But aside from the fact that they probably don't have the votes right now, I love the fact that it will force Democrats to vote for this, force them to support the mutilation of children.
How is this happening? How are people not seeing the similarity between gender affirming surgeries and lobotomies, for instance? There's such a similarity to me in the medical mistakes that were made in the lobotomy craze in the, what was it, the 50s and 60s, when poor Rose Kennedy was lobotomized by her father because she ran around with the boys too much, and never talked again, never was able to walk or talk again. Yeah, it's just, yeah, Mike. But it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing what's happening when we can't even have a conversation about the actual results of these, not only the surgeries, but the puberty blockers, the hormones, what toll the body is under after being on these things for years, the lack of sexual pleasure that these people now who went through this are facing, life with no sexual pleasure, facing being sterile, facing so many bone density problems and early menopause. There's just so many downsides. And we can't have a conversation about this. Like, look, before I came on this show, I was frantically sending an email to a teacher at my child's school. Today was the first day of school, and my 7th grader's in public school for the first time. She transferred from a Catholic school to the public school. So it's going to be culture shock. We expected that. But I didn't, she's 13. I didn't expect one of her teachers to insist that they put pronouns on their name tags on the very first day of science class. This is how, and when you were saying how people don't resist this stuff, that's why it happens. I think that's absolutely the case. I don't think this teacher is some kind of, crazed groomer. I think she's a good person who wants to make everybody feel included, and she thinks this is how to do it. What she hasn't considered, and what I hope I explained to her in my email, was that you're leaving out the students who are from traditionally religious families, who have different ideologies, who are opposed to gender theology. And this is like a religion. It's like a cult. And I'm not required to believe it. And my children are not required to believe it or participate in it. And I think it starts right there. My email to her was, we will not be participating in this. My daughter will not participate in writing down her preferred pronouns. Just period. End of story. She will not put pen to paper and write she, her when it's self-evident.
I think I've come to realize that I think the reason that they try and push asking that for everyone is so they can sort of identify who are the wrong thinkers, who are the ones that'll step out of line, who are the ones that won't just go along with it.
Ooh, that's scary to think about.
But I want to ask you, Chris, so what is I've always wondered, what is your origin story? How did you come to be involved in all this? Like, what was sort of the thing that brought you to this issue?
It's just too crazy. I had to take a stand. Nothing particular brought me to this issue. I just learned about it, and I've got 2 girls that are 10 and 12 years old now. They were 8 and 10 when I started this, so they're kind of in the age where other kids are getting affected and falling into this cult. And I do call it a cult, and I do consider this to be 100% a cult. I don't mean that as some sort of dramatic phrase. This has all the hallmarks of a cult. And yeah, man, I'm just a dad. And what's the point of life? Is it to make a bunch of money? Get a big house with a pool? Are we going to sit by and let this insanity wreak havoc upon our society and all the other things that are going on? Are we just going to sit by and watch this when we know what's going on?
God, and this is the issue, I think, more than anything, where it just blows my mind every day how these things are even up for discussion. How did we get here? You mentioned the computer bugs that are totally reversible, of course.
Not. You cannot reverse a micro penis, Mike. You cannot reverse a micro penis. No. If it doesn't grow, it's never going to grow again. And that is the thing. Jazz Jennings, even, and that's the reality star who was like the youngest trans person, to be on television. Jazz Jennings had a micro penis because of the puberty blockers that they implanted in this child's arm at an early age. And that even made it difficult for them to even do their Frankenstein surgery on Jazz. And so it was botched twice. These are the realities of puberty blockers.
Let's touch on that surgery briefly.
Yeah.
So what happens is when these boys go on puberty blockers, their penis doesn't grow because they aren't releasing any testosterone. So their sex-based characteristics that should develop will not happen. So girls' breasts don't grow, girls' hips don't expand, boys' penises don't grow. Their bones are suffering demineralization. That's one of the listed side effects. A young girl in Sweden just suffered spinal fractures and has osteopenia, which is early stage osteoporosis, and she's in chronic pain. But with the boys, they end up with these micropenises for life. And because when they do these penile inversion surgeries, when they decide to make a neo-vagina for these boys, there's not enough tissue there to do the inversion. So in Jazz's case, they cut out some of his stomach to form the lining of this neo-vagina. In other cases, I think more frequently, they cut out some of their colon. And it smells like colon because it is colon. And these are just wounds, and they're constantly trying to close up. And of course, there's going to be surgical complications. And then I tweet out some stories from detransitioners. I tweeted out this story of a 25-year-old male a couple months ago. He just figured out that he's gay. Yet he had this vaginoplasty done, and he has what's called a fistula, which is a passageway that has formed between his urinary tract and his neo-vagina. So he's constantly leaking urine and getting infections for 5 years now. And he could die of some of these infections. Doctors can't fix it. They just want to close him up completely, but they don't know how to do that either. So this whole thing is just a gruesome Frankenstein mess.
It is. It is absolutely a Frankenstein mess. It is experimenting on children and on mentally unwell adults. It is not okay, and I'm not ever going to say it's okay. I have seen the pictures of these so-called successful transitions, the so-called successful surgeries, and it is like nothing I've ever seen before. How anyone would want to sign up for this, and the way that these girls look with their breasts cut off and these giant scars across their chest, it's almost like an exercise in self-hatred. Which is being pushed by our medical community. It's cutting. Is what it is. It's cutting on a much larger scale, using a physician to do it for you, a surgeon to do it for you. There's so many mental problems going on with these kids, the ones who are not caught up in a social contagion, because the TikTok kids they're just doing what kids do, which is rebel and hop onto the thing that's going to piss off their parents the most, right? And a lot of that is what this is. But the ones who are truly affected and truly mentally unwell are targeted by this pharmaceutical cabal that is making, Chris, how much money are they making, the pharmaceuticals, on all these drugs?
There's a few billion in it right now, which sounds like a lot. To be quite honest, the way that Lupron, for example, the most used drug, affects the bottom line of AbbVie pharmaceuticals, it's not going to make or break their performance for any given year. And they're not really advertising this, but where they're pushing this is through lobbying with pharmaceuticals and with insurance companies in order to cover this stuff. So yeah, there is a lot of money in it, but I don't want to reduce the importance of that. But I think when it comes to the actual promotion of this, we have a whole bunch of true believers on the left who are pushing this through activist organizations like the Human Rights Campaign and all these other LGBTQ organizations, which we should just call TQ plus organizations, because they have nothing to do with LGBT.
Just call them C for communist.
But yeah, this is a well-orchestrated, well-funded campaign. It's a propaganda campaign. We're in an information war. And the only way they've been able to have so much success by pushing something so insane is by pushing tons of propaganda and spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars a year marketing this, getting it into schools, etc. And getting this into schools is the ultimate coup. Because like with any movement throughout mankind's history, if you can manipulate the children, well, that's how you get your big success, because you're grooming the next generation of kids.
Mm-hmm. And it is so Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, I think we're getting feedback. I don't know if you guys hear that.
Oh, do you?
I get it.
I do
I get it from
hear
Megan. I get it from me, but I'm not getting it from you, Mike. So it's
Yeah,
probably
I'm
really
hearing
annoying
it
for
too.
listeners.
I'm hearing it too.
How do you solve that? Sorry,
I think
let
it
me.
might be from your computer, Mike.
Mine? Okay.
Are you using headphones, Mike?
No.
That's probably why. You might want to turn your computer volume down a bit.
Oh, that could be it. Okay, how about now?
Let's see if that seems better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's much better.
Oh, good. Sorry about that. Good. Yay, it's solved. I get nervous when there's any tech problems. I'm like, oh no. What I was going to say though, and then I want to bring up some of the super chats. I will never forgive these people for it has been such a crucial part of how they've been able to pull this off by tying it to particularly gay people. I was going to say LGBT, but really gay people, because I don't think there are that many people in this country left who really give a damn if someone's gay. I think it's a lot of narcissism mostly when people think everyone hates them and everyone cares so much. I don't know where all these people are that care so much. So I think by fusing it to that, it's a manipulation tactic called force teaming. They've been able to force team off of the goodwill of other people, feeling that maybe in the past gay people were mistreated. And so now they want, equality and love for everyone. And that's how this has just been a total Trojan horse, where every single thing that we were told would happen if we accepted gay people that I believe was never true in the past, they have made it come true. I never imagined that anyone would have had a legitimate point to say, oh, they want to recruit children. And now they've made this true. So it's harming LGBT people more than anyone almost, other than the people that it's literally ruining their lives. Oh, and
so can I touch on that briefly?
What's that?
Can I touch on that briefly about how it's harming? Please. So and it's true. So historically, if you look at kids who suffered from this condition called gender dysphoria, which to be perfectly accurate, we should probably call it sex dysphoria, because gender is one of these spectacularly ill-defined words, which doesn't really mean anything except for personality and conformity to stereotypes. But the studies that we do have into gender dysphoria, which used to affect 1 out of tens of thousands of children, usually boys, the studies show that 80 to 90% of the time these kids, when they went through puberty, guess what? They grew out of it. And a majority of these kids, according to about 12 different academic studies that we have, majority grew up to be gay. So this is absolutely true. Obviously makes some sense. You got really effeminate little boys. Some of them are going to grow up to be gay from a young age. They were effeminate. They wanted to be girls. They played with girly toys, whatever. Today is different. These academic studies we have are honestly like so out of date, because in the last 10 years, we've seen this explosion of young middle school and teenage girls who never had gender dysphoria. This isn't real gender dysphoria. This is called pubertal angst and natural anxiety about growing up. And it's a social contagion, just like bulimia was a social contagion, and cutting and other things that teenage girls have gone through. So to say that most of these kids today are going to grow up gay is not true. About half of these kids have autism. At the Tavistock, which is the one gender clinic that all the kids went to in England, out of a sample size of more than 1,000 kids, 35% had moderate to severe autism. And when you include the mild cases, that goes above 50%. So yes, there are absolutely kids who are going to grow up to be gay, but the numbers we have from these historical studies aren't really relevant for this social contagion that's going on today. These are just kids.
Oh no, do we lose Chris?
They have autism. There's been sexual abuse. They're foster kids. It's all the kids who are just struggling, and they're being told that, oh, you don't fit in and you're not feeling great because you're born in the wrong body.
And I can't think of a worse ideology, by the way, than to tell children that they are born in the wrong body, especially children about to go through puberty, which is so damn difficult. And I can only speak for girls. I don't know what it's like to be a boy and going through puberty, but for girls, it's hellish. You know, having to learn how to deal with a period is not fun. Having to learn, you know, how to deal with everything that comes with that, and the pain and just the physical discomfort, and then having to come to grips with the fact that you're gonna do this every month for the rest of your freaking life. You know, it's a very difficult time. I have two daughters who are through it, and it was not easy. It's not easy for anybody to get through puberty. So the idea, though, that puberty is bad, though, or that it should be stopped, or that there's something wrong with our natural development as human beings, is absolutely insane. Who are these doctors that think they can play God and stop your puberty and have no bad effects from that? What are you high? What are you smoking? And can I have some? Because I need to be lost in that sort of non-reality for a while, where I can just forget about all the worries and just pretend that unicorns exist.
I mean, think about how it's become so normal that I feel like we don't pay attention to how deeply sick it is, that for young people who are growing up to have these charlatans come in and say anything wrong in your life, we can fix it through drugs, through surgery. This is sick. If you're depressed, take a drug.
Yeah,
if
making
you're
you a patient
hyper, take
forever.
a drug. If you don't like your period, get a hysterectomy.
Get rid of it. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Sick.
And look, you can do whatever you want with your body when you're an adult, and you know nobody can stop you from doing it. I personally think that the surgeons, though, who take part in this are very responsible for putting money ahead of the well-being of their patients. I can't imagine that any surgeon who actually does these surgeries, you know, the bottom surgeries and whatever, the vaginoplasties and the whatever they are, I can't believe that they can look at the results of what they've done when they remove the skin from the forearm from here to here and like remove muscle and things. I mean, and leave a hideous scar to build a fake phallus. I can't believe that they don't see what they are doing is harming people. They see the results. They know how many of them work and how many of them don't. And as far as I don't think I've ever heard of one that works. Like, where are the people who are like, oh, I had this surgery and it's absolutely fine and I can pee no problem and I don't have any problem with anything? I've never heard of those people.
And that's why I love, Chris, that you really go into the graphic details of it, which is so important, I think, because it's always discussed in these sort of theoretical terms. And you really shine a light on this is what it actually is. Real quick, I want to hit up our super chats. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. Send us all your stuff. Sam, I love you. Huge fan of the work you all do. Aw, thank you. We're pushing back against this madness in Scotland, too. Sending my best to all of you. That's amazing. It's God, how sick that it's not just an American thing, that this has infected every country. I mean,
just every Western country. This is not happening in Russia. This is not happening in Poland. It is not happening in China. It's not happening anywhere else but the Western world, because the Western world is, you know, it's been too long without a real war, and everyone's navel gazing and everyone's bored as hell. And that's what happens when you have no hard times. You get idiots in charge of everything, and that's what we have. But I read this fantastic story from a woman on one of the Parents Against Transgender something. I don't remember what PITT is on Substack, about a woman who parents. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes,
Chris.
It's I've forgotten the last one. Parents with Inconvenient Truths.
Yes.
About, I forget. All right,
so one of them wrote a story about their daughter who was caught in the social contagion, and this woman moved her back to her homeland of Russia. She picked her kid up and took her to Russia. And within 3 months, she said she desisted completely, because in Russia, it doesn't exist. There's no such thing as gender dysphoria. And I mean, so that should tell you right there, this is a social contagion. It's cultural. It's social media. It's not real. It's not real. What we are being sold is totally false.
When you teach a child that they have a gender identity, and you teach this as a fact, what's the next thing this kid's going to do? They're going to have to figure out what their gender identity is.
Absolutely. That's why I object to writing your pronouns. That's why I object to her participating in a ritual that basically says, I sign up for this ideology. I open myself to the possibility that I have a choice about what I am. Oh, no, sir. Not in my house. Not, oh, no, you don't. You are what you were made to be. Girls have a vagina. Boys have a penis. Period. Like, that's where I'm at.
It's all about remaking society in their image.
When you introduce pronouns to a child, you're not just doing some stupid thing where you're talking about pronouns. You are introducing the idea that we have a gender identity that may or may not be tied to our biological sex. Mm-hmm. You're causing this dissociative disorder in these children because when they try to figure out what their gender identity is, they look at ridiculous resources like the genderbread person.
The genderbread.
Oh.
Which is this little gingerbread man.
Yeah.
And it defines your gender identity right on there. And this is the most used resource in the entire world. It's even in children's hospitals. They're even using this in university courses. And it says that your gender identity is based on your personality, your jobs, your hobbies, your roles, your expectations, your likes and your dislikes.
Stereotypes.
So I use this all the time when I'm on the street because I talk to the wokest of the woke. I get these woke teachers coming up to me to tell me how terrible I am on the street. And I know that I can get them to agree with me because I just show them the left's own propaganda. So I'll say, okay, so on the subject of gender identity, let's look here at how this is defined. It says here that your gender identity is based on the jobs that you have. Oh, they'll say, oh, that's very problematic. Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Very problematic.
So is your hobby, does that determine your gender? Do the roles in society, is that what determines your gender? They all agree that this is stereotypical nonsense. And this is the thing about the far left who are pushing this and the people with brains in their heads like us. We all agree on one thing. And it's always good to find a source of agreement when you're talking to these people. And that is that we should not be putting these children in some stereotypical box. They'll agree with that. They just don't realize that they are pushing stereotypes to such a degree that we should be altering a child's body to match the stereotypes that this child is naturally inclined towards.
Most of these people who are all for this gender theology, I like to call it, are also the same people who are very, what they would consider sex positive. And they are very pro talking to little children about sex and being very open. Oh yeah, pleasure-based sex education. It's all really sick. But I have a question for these people who they think that they are so open about sexuality and everything. How do they then square the fact that the theology they're pushing will absolutely, by design, take away the ability of most people's orgasms? Like,
they don't know that.
You're doing genital mutilation. You're going in with a scalpel. You are cutting nerves. You are recreating something that will never come back. That feeling, most people that I've talked to who had this surgery say they are completely numb, cannot feel anything in that area. That means no orgasms for you for the rest of your life. Now, how do you square being a sex positive person with also conforming to an ideology that takes orgasms away from people involved in this?
They don't know that it's happening, and they won't believe you when you tell them. That's all it is to it. The people pushing this have not thought past the surface.
How do they think that your body works? How do they think nerves work? Do they believe that you can sever nerves? You can cut a clitoris, or you can cut. Do they believe you can sever these nerves and they will just grow back? It's not. That's not how this works.
They don't care. Somebody was screaming at me on Twitter recently about defending all of the surgeries for kids. Of course, that's not happening at first, and then once you show them that it very much is, I'd asked her, okay, so once these children get these surgeries and their lives are ruined, then what? And she literally said, I'm so happy to finally hear one of them say this. It's the most honest thing I've heard any of them say. She goes, oh, well, choices have consequences. I was like, and there it is. And that is the amount of love and hope and support and empathy and rainbows and sunshine that these kids will get once their lives have been destroyed. They will be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed into this. And then once their lives are ruined, oh, well, choices have consequences.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then they'll be a detransitioner, so they will also be one of the bad people. They'll be a fascist and a Nazi and a transphobe. So
Mike,
no matter how they end up, they're having their lives ruined.
Mike, was this a young white liberal woman you were talking to?
What would ever give you that impression?
So that's who's pushing this. Of
course it was.
That's entirely who's pushing this. The foot soldiers of the trans rights movement, whatever you want to call it, crazy gender ideology, these are young women. Now, feminists hate it when I say that, but it's true. And if you're going to defeat something like this, you need to know who's pushing it. You need to be able to just speak the truth about it. And more than 90% of the abuse I get on the street comes from young women under 25 years of age. These are the women taking gender studies classes in universities. These are liberal feminists who dramatically outnumber the radical feminists, by the way. And they're the ones pushing this on society. So, parents of girls, you have to not only protect your kids from this ideology, you need to protect them from these universities who are brainwashing them. Because
tell me about it.
They're the ones becoming the teachers who are pushing this, the counselors, the HR people, the psychologists. Men think this is stupid. The vast majority of men. I never run into a problem with a big, strong, athletic dude, ever. Literally never. When I was at Brown University, it was almost every single woman on campus giving us a hard time, and maybe one guy had an issue with it. The rest supported us.
I think one of the reasons for that.
Funny little thing.
I think one of the reasons for that is that I think white women believe that they have some kind of crusade that they must wage in order for people to believe that they are virtuous, because they don't like being identified as white women, because that's a bad thing to be. And so they will glom onto these women on the left who want to make up for their problem of being white, right? The problematic reality of being white by glomming onto these things they think will give them virtue in that world. I have no desire to have anyone. I don't care what people think of me. I'll tell you that much. Not enough to be advocating for the mutilation of children. No, I'm a mother. I protect my children. I think children ought to be protected from all of this. If I could clone Ron DeSantis in every state, I would do it, because he's at least someone who takes action, does something about all of this, says what we're all thinking. This is insane. You're not going to talk to kindergartners about sex in my state, period. Go kick rocks. I love that about him. I absolutely love it. And look, I don't do this very often, but I'm going to do it right now because it goes to the topic. But there's a troll. I have a troll in your chat.
Behind on the chat. I'm assuming.
No, it's okay. But I want to address one of the things that he said. Gamma Man said, Megan supports QAnon mothers who allow unnecessary surgeries on children. So this is interesting. This brings me to Megan supports QAnon mothers who allow unnecessary surgeries on children. So this is interesting. So this troll is bringing up the case that I followed, the Cynthia Absug case, which was a CPS custody case that became a criminal case when she was arrested and tried and convicted convicted falsely, I believe, for conspiracy to kidnap her child from foster care and also medical child abuse. Now, this person is completely lying about what happened to the child. The child had no surgeries. There were no unnecessary surgeries. The child had a couple of tests, some EEGs, an X-ray, a blood test, no surgeries whatsoever. And these were the things that the state set this woman up to be a medical child abuser, they said, because she followed doctor's orders and got her son the tests he needed for the doctor said he needed. No surgeries. But she is now convicted of medical child abuse. Yet mothers who take their minors in to have their breasts removed, healthy breasts, that is an unnecessary surgery, sir. It is. That's an unnecessary surgery. And they are lauded as heroes and put up on talk shows, while Cindy Absug is going to jail for listening to her doctors who said she had a medically complex child. That's what she's going to jail for. It's absolutely insane. The world is upside down, and I will not let you lie about it in the chat. There were no unnecessary surgeries in the Absug case. Read something.
I love you. We'll come back to that in a second. I just want to hit up the super chats.
Catch up on your super chats. Be a good YouTuber.
Yes.
Neglectful. From Giorgio Quattrocento, Amore Mio.
Good pronunciation.
That's not even his real name. He just likes making me say Giorgio Quattrocento. I saw a Twitter post where a girl burned a copy of Irreversible Damage that her dad gave her. That's not surprising. I mean, I'm good on the dad for trying. That's horrible. You know, they don't want to hear truth.
Yeah, so Irreversible Damage, for those who don't know, that's a book written by Abigail Schreier. The full title is Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. And this is increasing in boys as well, but parents of girls, you've got to look out, because as we've covered, puberty tends to be a hard time for girls. And all the girls in their social sphere now are on board with this ideology, because if they're not, they're cast out from all their friendship groups. They almost have to be part of this ideology, because to not go along with this makes them a transphobe. And most 14, 15, 20-year-olds, whatever, they don't want to be called some sort of phobe. It's like the end of the world.
I know people are throwing their lives away to not be called words. Mm-hmm. That will never not be insane to me. They're giving away their child's bodies, minds, everything, just to not be called words. It's insane to me. Another from Giorgio Quattrocento. The 1950s rebellion with rock and roll was way safer than this kind of rebellion. That is for sure. Can't we just get some like Elvis back in here?
Remember when parents were all upset about Elvis twitching his hips around? I mean, my God, we've come so far. But the slippery slope is real. It's real. It's a real thing.
My favorite, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
My favorite Babylon Bee article of all time. They showed a bunch of pictures of like the drag queen kids and all that different alphabet insanity. And it was like, the headline was something like, there is no slippery slope, says movement hurling down slippery slope at maximum velocity.
Yeah, exactly.
When gay rights were won, all that money turned to trans rights, and they had to keep the doors open, and they had to keep the donations flowing, and they had to keep all their LGBTQ activist employees going on something. So it's moved to trans rights, and
I'm allergic to
got nothing to do with
LGBTQ. We've won from Front Porch Conservative. Thank you so much for the super chat. Mikey and guests, thank you for being able and willing to talk about these issues and present them to folks like me who care but may not be fully aware of it. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here. These two are rock stars on this issue. I just want to check. I don't know more. Sorry, I got very neglectful of the chat. What I wanted to say to you guys, so I think you'd mentioned, Megan, about what happens when you tell a kid that they have preferred pronouns. I think there's another side of that also. What happens when you tell a young child that they have a sexual orientation? Because that's another thing that these people are pushing. And I've been saying this for years, that if these people believe that a child can have a sexual orientation, like, it's a child. You're not gay. You're not straight. You're a child. If they believe that a child can have a sexual orientation, why would they not believe that kids can be having sex? And the scary thing.
Oh, but they do.
I know. And I've come to see that.
But they do. And I've been saying it for years, Mike. I've been saying that this sex education stuff that they've been pushing in schools is all about getting kids to be sexually active, probably for the pedophiles who are preying on them. They have been doing this for years, trying to say that children are sexual beings and that they have sexual rights. This is a sick ideology. And another question you guys should be asking yourselves is, why on earth would a person...
Sorry, I tried to go...
Wait, sorry. What happened?
Sorry, I tried to open the chat on here to get something, and then I heard you. Sorry, I got it.
No, it's okay. I forgot where I was going. Where was I going? What was I talking about?
Sex.
Thought derailment. Total train derailment. But I don't know. What were we talking about? I totally lost it.
How the left wants to sexualize kids.
Oh, the sex
the
education. Okay, so another question we should be asking ourselves is, why would anybody think puberty blockers was a good idea? What type of people would like a human being to remain the size and shape of a 12-year-old for the rest of their lives?
So this all started in the Netherlands in the 90s with one girl. This is called the Dutch protocol, this whole practice of giving puberty blockers and then the opposite sex hormones. They did this with one girl who had severe, prolonged gender dysphoria. And it's well known now, and it should have been obvious to anyone, that there's a honeymoon period when you do this for a lot of these kids. They've been obsessing over this, and they're finally getting what they wanted. So with this one girl that they gave this experimental drug to, now this drug has been around for a long time. The trade name for this drug that's usually used in the US is called Lupron. It's got different names, different companies. Hystrelin is one that's the implant that's given these kids, which costs about $40,000 a year. But they gave it to this one girl in the Netherlands, and then a year later, she said she was happier. And from this one girl spawned this entire industry of giving these experimental drugs and cross-sex hormones to kids. And there is a honeymoon period with this. You give testosterone to a young girl, guess what? She's going to be happier because her period stops. Testosterone is a class 3 drug that takes away your anxiety. It gives you more confidence. It's going to redistribute their body fat. They're going to be happy about that. They might get some bigger muscles. They're going to be happy about that. So if I took testosterone, if you took testosterone, Mike, we'd probably feel better right away. But guess what? We evolved over 1 billion years. We've been on this planet as humans for maybe a few 100,000 years. If you believe in creation, well, then you're saying God created us wrong if you think these drugs are needed. But forget about God. If you believe in evolution, as almost everyone does, are you to tell me that during this brief 10-year window of our long history, that a pharmaceutical company is here to help our children become who they really are?
Yeah, exactly.
By giving them a drug that was used on pedophiles to chemically castrate them. This drug was approved to treat prostate cancer in men, uterine fibroids, and endometriosis in women. But it happens to stop the pituitary gland from releasing a couple hormones, which in turn is what turns on the production of estrogen and testosterone in kids' bodies. So this whole thing is experimental. It's never been approved. And we're also doing surgeries on kids now because the left call this progress, helping them to be who they really are and saying that children know what's best for them. The whole thing's insane. Sorry.
And you made a great point. You made a great point, too, of yet another way that the gender cult sort of exists to demolish everything that helped gay people gain acceptance throughout the years, because we're now being told, oh, God made a mistake with you. You're in the wrong body. Where the thing with gay people for so many years was, argument always was, if God didn't want people to be gay, he wouldn't make them gay. What happened? Remember Lady Gaga? What was that? What was the song?
Yeah, what is Born This Way about?
God makes no mistakes. Yeah. Unless you're 5 years old and want to get a hysterectomy.
Born This Way is like the trans anthem now. But, you know, being gay, that's something that's measurable. You can take a gay person, you can take a gay man, put him in an MRI machine and show him gay porn, and the parts of his brain associated with sexual arousal will light up. And they won't light up for regular porn. Anyway, we're getting off track. Someone made a great comment in the chat.
Okay.
And their comment was that we don't even know the effects that these puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones have on our developing brains. Of course we don't. This has never been done in the history of the world. But we do know that hormones are very important and play all sorts of roles that we still have no idea about And just a month ago, by the way, the FDA released a new warning saying that puberty blockers are causing brain swelling and permanent vision loss in some of these kids.
Yeah, I saw that.
So what the hell are we doing?
And I would really encourage you guys to go read the stories of any of these detransitioners. The thing that you will hear time and time again in every one of their stories is that they can't find any doctor to fix it. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they did in the first place. There's nowhere to go.
So, right. So, okay. So there's all these places to go, all these gender clinics when you want to transition, and there are surgeons lined up for you, and you can go get your, Dr. Titus Deletus will just, remove your breasts and stick them in a bucket and laugh about it on Instagram. And this is great. Right. And there's all these resources for trans people going through transition. When a person has gone through these surgeries and the surgeries have failed and they've decided they did the wrong thing and they need to go back, there is literally no one who specializes in repairing the damage that was done by the Frankenstein doctors. How is it possible? How is it possible that there's no help for people who want to go back? Of course, there is no going back once you've, like you said, it's irreparable. You cannot uncut nerves.
Mike, can you turn down your volume again a little bit?
Oh, damn.
Thanks, man.
Can you guys hear okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Katie Campbell's asking, isn't the term born this way the exact opposite of what they're pushing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. People say that this whole trans thing is about helping children to be who they really are. Really? Are they truly a lifelong medical patient? Is that their true self? Because that's what we're turning them into. These girls have to go on testosterone for the rest of their life. They're getting gender affirming hysterectomies, they call it, or even bilateral oophorectomies where they cut out their ovaries as well. Guess what that does? Instant menopause. Thank you very much. Instant menopause for an 18-year-old. That has 100 side effects of its own, including early onset dementia, osteoporosis. They're taking decades off these people's lives. They're reducing their dating pool to 0, eliminating their chance to have a family. What 10-year-old can start down this process and consent to this?
None, not one.
This is the biggest child abuse scandal in history.
It really is. It really is. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take for everyone to wake up to it. Or like you said earlier, Mike, it's really the resistance issue that we are facing right now. Because I know for a fact, I don't know anybody in my personal life that thinks any of this is okay. And I mean, parents in school, and I don't know anybody who's like, yeah, I hope my daughter becomes a boy and we're going to cut her uterus out. Like, everyone's terrified of this. Everyone is terrified that their kid's going to be the next one to get, rapid onset gender dysphoria and be pushed down this road by some school counselor. I don't know anybody who actually agrees with this stuff other than these crazy people on social media. So the idea that there's somehow not a resistance is simply cowardice, if you ask me. It's people who do not want to cause waves. They do not want to be known as the one who's the squeaky wheel or the troublemaker or whatever. That ship has long sailed for me. It's like, it's way over. So I just don't care, and I'll tell anybody. But you have to fight back. I just wrote an article about standing up for your kids' rights. And the way to do it in public schools is to have a lawyer for your child. If you don't have a lawyer for your child and you send your kid to public school, you are playing Russian roulette with your child's existence. Because at any moment, they can start violating your civil rights, your religious rights, their free speech rights by forcing them to use pronouns they're not comfortable with, for instance. That's a free speech issue. All of these issues actually come down to constitutional rights that we have as parents and that our children have as citizens of America. They have all the rights guaranteed to them in the Constitution. And I wrote about this today on pjmedia.com. If you're not a VIP subscriber, you really need to be, because that's where most of my good stuff goes. And that's where my article is today. But I put in there a template for you to use with a lawyer. Get yourself a lawyer. I barter with mine for cases of wine when I need letters. I get her a case of wine. She writes me a letter. It's fantastic. And we send them to the school preemptively and say, this child has an attorney. You're on notice that if anyone from the state or any agency or anyone wants any information or wants to speak to this child, my client, you must alert her lawyer, and she's instructed to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights until I get there. This does a couple of things. I know it doesn't seem like it would help protect them from gender ideology, but it does. And here's why. It makes the school know, for one, you're a fighter. You have a team of people that are willing to stand up and defend your kids' rights in court if need be. And so they know right away that you're not messing around. And then they also understand that when it comes to other issues of constitutional rights, you've already laid the foundation that you're not going to put up with the Fifth Amendment right or the Fourth Amendment right being violated by the school. So why the hell would you put up with the first or the second or the third? Well, the second, not in school, but why would you be not protecting their religious rights? And I think a good way to go after this, by the way, is what Chris was talking about with the cult issue. Gender theology is what I call it. It is a cult. It meets every definition of a cult. If you look up the definition of a cult, you can fit every one of these gender ideologies in there. It is not based in reality. It's not based in science. It is subjective. It is based on feelings. It is based on nothing but air. And so those are called beliefs. And the public school system is a government-run system that is not allowed to impose any religious belief on its students. The separation of church and state may actually save us in this fight, because I can say to the school, and I have, I'm a Catholic. I'm not pushing my beliefs, and my child isn't pushing her beliefs on anyone in your school. But the second you start pushing your gender cult theology on my child, you are violating the separation of church and state that the state constitution talks about and our country's constitution talks about. And that's not allowed. So I think that's the way to go after it, frankly. And and it works if you're an atheist or any kind of religion, because you can say, I'm an atheist. I don't have a religion, and I don't appreciate this gender cult religion being pushed on my children. I don't allow it. We don't believe in this. Period.
There was a case recently. It's in the news the last couple of days. A teacher won $70-something thousand, I think it was, because he refused to use some incorrect pronouns for a child in the school.
Oh yeah,
and he won the case. So that is a win for the First Amendment. I want to comment on a comment made by Lizzie here. So Lizzie MK wrote in the chat that counselors and teachers can't diagnose.
I just wanted to shout out that one real quick. Hi, Matt. So much for
Matt.
Yeah. So Lizzie said that counselors, teachers, they can't diagnose gender dysphoria. That's correct. Here's the thing. This has evolved beyond gender dysphoria. If you talk to all these kids, all these young people, even the counselors, you don't need to have gender dysphoria to be trans now. This has evolved. I get messages. I've been outside. I've been on the street near schools in Ottawa and Ontario, and even here in British Columbia. And I get these teenagers messaging me saying, Chris, you don't need to have gender dysphoria to be trans. This is what people need to understand. This isn't about gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
They just are trans. That's how they think. They just have a gender identity that doesn't coincide with their sex. So this isn't about what used to be called gender identity disorder and the DSM-4, which then changed to gender dysphoria. This isn't even about that anymore. These kids just think they can choose what sex they want to be because they're being taught this from the age of 5 on up.
Well, it's not just sex either. It's not just, they believe they can choose their own reality, as if this was a virtual reality game and we're all characters in Mark Zuckerberg's meta universe, and they can build their avatar however they want. Now, they could online do that, but in reality, they're like morphing this virtual reality into real life. There are children at the school where my kids go who identify as furries, and they walk around wearing costumes. Yeah. And somehow this is not against the dress code. This is not against the dress code for some reason. Oh, yeah.
Aren't furries like a sexual thing?
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Furries, I don't get it. I have no understanding of furries. All I know is that there are kids who come to school dressed up in animal costumes. They wear pig noses, and they wear ears on their head, and they wear tails, and they identify as a furry, and this is being allowed. It's being allowed. It is crazy. It is ridiculous. And also, it's being used by these kids as a power play. I mean, I see it so clearly. Like, for instance, today, one of the furries who came dressed as her demon self, she had horns on, and she refers to herself as some kind of demon. The gym teacher was going over the rules and saying, you cannot wear any headpieces, you cannot wear any, so you have to take that off, no jewelry, no this, no that in gym class. And she said, well, these don't come off, I don't take them off. It's a power play. This is the same thing that the goth kids used to do to the teachers. Yeah, but no one back then, the teacher would be like, okay, then you can sit in the hallway. Now, teachers are afraid to do anything because they're going to be accused of being some kind of phobe if they keep the kids in line. It's Halloween 365 days a year. It's so dumb. There are rules in the whatchamacallit, the student handbook that say you can't wear things that are distracting. So how do you then come to school in demon horns and that's not distracting? It's crazy.
Something I want to
talk about queer theory. Sorry.
What's that?
Let's talk about queer theory, but go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, what I wanted to say before that real quick is something that you had touched on, Megan, that I wanted to ask you also, Chris, is how do you protect your kids from this? Because I've been saying to everyone, I'm like, I feel like nowadays parents need to protect their kids from this and actively take steps to warn them about it and educate them on the pressures that they'll face, the same way they would teach them not to get in a van if someone offers them candy, because that's really what this is. I mean, even me, like, I was thinking about this the other day. I think if I had kids, if I had a son, just a few years ago, even, if I had, like, a little boy and he was like, I want to wear a dress. A few years ago, I would have been like, cool, you do you. No way in hell would that be happening now, because you see that that's the first step. That is the entryway into this entire cult.
Yeah, you can't even be an expressive kid or a dramatic kid anymore. You can't be different. If you show the slightest intention, of being different, it's like, oh, that's the trans kid. Let's get him on hormones.
So most of these kids who are affected by this come from liberal families. This is a statistical fact. So, it's not rocket science to protect your kids from this. You have conversations with them and you teach them about this, and you tell them in no uncertain terms that you're a girl or you're a boy, and there's a bunch of crazy people out there that think you can just change your sex by thinking it. And they get it, okay? It's the kids that have never had these conversations who are also naturally more vulnerable. Again, these are not the kids who are thriving in society. It's a bunch of foster kids. It's kids from bad homes. It's kids from good homes too. But they haven't had these conversations, and parents didn't know this was going on in schools. And if they're from a liberal family already, well, they're kind of okay with, accepting everything, and just, it's this false compassion, right? We need to be compassionate for everyone. We need to love everyone, and we need to just go along with everything. Because if we don't go along with everything, then we're hateful somehow. No, you don't go along with a lie. And it's not hateful to not go along with a lie. When the emperor is not wearing any clothes, you don't go along and say, yeah, he's fully clothed. Mm-hmm. So I've had these conversations with my kids. Now, of course, as a parent, you're going to pick the right times to have these conversations. And you should be having these on a continual basis. But you just educate them and you tell them what's going on. And I'm not worried about my girls for 1 second. I have exactly 0 to worry about. At the end of grade 7 last year, the teacher in my daughter's class taught the gender unicorn, which is similar to the genderbread person. Mm-hmm. And this teacher even said that there are more than 2 sexes when he was referring to these intersex people, because he's drank the Kool-Aid. But then in the very next sentence, he said that he didn't really understand it. So what the heck are you doing, Mr. Teacher, teaching this crap when you don't even understand it? And my daughter piped up in front of the class. She's awesome. She won the award basically for valedictorian for grade 7, best overall student. They call it the Rocket Award. But she said something like, it seems to me that this is an awful lot about stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And because she said that, it gave all these other kids in the class permission to go, yeah, like, this is dumb. And so, if anything, I don't need to worry about my daughter at all. She's going to be a positive influence for these other kids, especially the other girls who might be going through this. But we just need to have the truth, because the truth is a shield. It protects you from these lies. But if you've never had these conversations, then you're an open slate for some woke teacher with blue hair to come along and indoctrinate your kid.
Yeah, also,
It's because
you've got to have a great relationship with your kids. First of all, that's the most important thing, is to just have a good relationship with your kids, have fun with your kids, play with your kids, take them
Yes.
places, and be a good parent. Because the truth is that children are attached to their parents, and they want to please their parents, and they want to be with you all the time. And if the stronger the relationship between parent and child, the less chances you will have of any of this happening to you. It's the children that get separated from their parents who have a relational problem, who then someone can come in between and drive a wedge between them. That's where it gets dangerous. So if you're having difficulties with your child, even if it's not anything to do with gender, but you're having relational issues with that child, that's a danger zone. Repair that as best you can. Cut back on
100%.
social media. Cut back on social media time. Do more family
No
activities
social
together.
media.
Yeah, no social media. I don't let my kids on social media.
And if they are, know what they're
these-
looking at.
These so-called trans kids, and I never use that term. There's no such thing as a trans kid. There's just girls and boys. These kids are averaging 7 hours per day.
Yeah, it's too
7
much.
hours per
So
day
unsurprising.
on social media.
No TikTok.
This is terrible parenting.
No Instagram, no TikTok, no Snapchat, no none of that. That is no. It's an absolute no. It's funny,
It's unnatural.
in my daughter's
Yeah.
7th grade class, it came up about, I guess one of the teachers said, none of you better be doing that Snapchat or TikToking in this class. And my daughter said, oh, it's okay. I don't have any of that. And the girl next to her said, oh, I don't have it either. And he's like, 2 of you? There are 2 of you who don't have it? He's like, well, those are good parents. Yeah. How is it that only 2 out of the whole class are not on social media? Like, parents, what are you doing?
I don't understand how it became so normal, the idea of children posting pictures of themselves for the world to see. How did that become so normal and so commonplace?
It's so dangerous.
I'll tell you a true story.
It should be their guidelines that you have to be 18 to use it.
Yes.
You know what? It's just so popular, and all the other kids are doing it. So TikTok, for example, a couple of years ago, my daughter was in dance, and she thought maybe she should post a video of her dancing on TikTok, like for her friends to see, because all their other friends were doing this in grade 5. And with these situations, I just like to get my girls to think this through on their own without me just telling them something. So I said, okay, who do you think would be watching that? Her friends. She said, okay, who else do you think would be watching that? And she thought about it, and yeah, who knows who will be watching it? Dads might be watching it. Other people online are going to be watching it. And she didn't like that. She just wanted her friends to watch it. That took care of that. Done in 10 seconds. And she doesn't want social media. My 10-year-old doesn't want social media. I got 10 and 12-year-olds. Because they know it's bad for them. Because we've had these conversations. But social media was like the worst experiment ever in human civilization on a generation of kids. You have these kids growing up online. All their relationships are online. And they're not outside, which is where they're meant to be.
And then COVID came along and destroyed it even more, because COVID made it impossible. Even if you were socializing, even if your kids did have somewhat of a normal friends relationship, they didn't after 2020. And that was the first time that social media came into our lives, because they were actually relying on some of the social media apps as for school. And that was, I got rid of it as soon as I possibly could. But man, I'll tell you what, the idea that people are allowing their kids to be on social media unsupervised, just be there at all, is crazy to me. It's crazy. I mean, at some point you do have to let them figure out what they're, how to use these certain apps responsibly. I don't know what that age is, but 16, 17, 18 is probably more appropriate than 11, 12, 13, which should be an absolute no-go, like no social media at all during that very specific, that very crazy time. You're talking puberty, you're talking so many things going on. Can you imagine middle school, Mike, if we had social media in middle school? Can you imagine how bad the bullying would be? think about just the bullying aspect of it. If your bullies could follow you around at home and like, no, I don't, it's crazy.
I can't imagine that. I don't understand. Well, don't forget also that you have these deadbeat parents who, when the kids are infants, they're raised by iPads. I mean, do you guys remember that thing that was a big story a couple of years ago? These creepy videos for children on YouTube. And it turns out that a lot of these parents were just sitting their kids in front of iPads, and it was on autoplay, and it was autoplaying the most disgusting things.
It was like CIA mind control
with, like,
cartoons.
Blood and needles and drugs, and like, this is what kids were seeing, and the parents had no idea because they're just sitting them in front of it. And I feel like that's kind of like a little microcosm of what's happening on a much worse and larger scale now. I had to put this on, as our amazing friend Chris Rowland said, Transhausen by proxy. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that is happening. And I don't want to always blame the parents. Of course, a lot of parents are to blame, but a lot of parents are also getting blindsided because this is in schools now. And again, if your child has autism, I cannot stress this enough. More than half these kids are on the autism spectrum. You have got to be especially careful what your child's doing online. They already feel like they don't fit in, and they are getting groomed online by other people who are pushing them into this ideology. And it's even video games. There's this young woman, she's 23 now in Seattle, but she was having a tough time as a teenage girl. And at 16, she was playing video games. And, you know, with these live video games, you're talking to other people around the world. And she made friends through a video game with a couple trans people who convinced her that she was trans. And that's why she was having all this discomfort with her body. So she had about 2 therapist appointments and got her breast cut off. And went on testosterone for 3 years. She detransitioned at the age of 19, but now she's been irreparably harmed. It could have damaged her fertility. She's got a deep voice, hair everywhere, of course. And this was just a vulnerable kid.
That's right.
I also encourage parents, by the way, I would encourage parents to tell your kids these stories. I do that all the time. I do that all the time. I tell my kid when I report on detransitioners all the time. I found so many stories and I share them with my kids because it's not like they're going to be protected from any of this stuff that's out there. They're not. They're going to get hit by it, and they're going to get hit by it a lot, especially in public school. So they have to have they have to have the truth. They have to know what the side effects are and what the downsides are. And I, at 13 and 16 are absolutely old enough to be talking to them about this stuff all the time. I probably started talking about it with my now 13-year-old when she was 11, right? Like 10, 11. I mean, you're getting into puberty. They have to know what the real truth is. They have to know about early menopause. They have to know about bone density issues so that when someone comes at them and is like, oh, it's totally reversible, they're going to be like, wait a minute, what about micropenis? What about, like, I realize that these are ridiculous topics to talk to children about, but you have to, right? You have to.
And you can do it age appropriate. I mean, my 8-year-old understood this when I started off my campaign. Girls are girls and boys are boys. And I tell my kids, if you hear the word gender spoken at school by a teacher, I want to know. The first thing you do when you come home is you tell me what was taught, what was spoken about. And parents, go talk to the teacher. Make noise.
That's what I just did.
What do teachers and principals hate more than anything? They hate getting complaints from parents. Yeah. A lot of these teachers, too, don't even know what they're teaching. They just think that they're being inclusive. They went to some professional development day where some third party was brought in to talk about gender identity, and they think that they're supposed to teach gender, so they're going to read The Gender Unicorn or The Genderbread Person, or they're going to read I Am Jazz, this book, and they think they're just being nice. But when you make some noise and you educate the teachers about what's going on and where this social transition leads to, guess what? A lot of them are going to be less likely to teach it, and a lot of them might start educating themselves. But we only defeat this by having conversations, because we all know the media isn't going to push any of this. They're pushing this as some romantic notion of a child finding their true self. But the truth spreads for free. The truth spreads for free. So we just need to keep telling it, and it'll keep spreading. And that's exactly what's been happening the last 2 years.
That's what I really want people to understand. If you have kids, if you have nieces, nephews, anything, We do not have the luxury of being passive about this. Every powerful institution in this country, from the federal government to the pharmaceutical companies, every single institution, academia, they're all pushing it. It is from age preschool and up. So we don't have the luxury of being passive about it. You have to talk to your kids. You have to warn your kids. You have to educate them
And
on the reality of this.
Someone in the chat keeps bringing up SEL, and I want to bring that up because SEL, social emotional learning, is one of these programs that are in the public schools and private schools. By the way, our Catholic school is doing it too, although theirs is much more watered down, like they don't put the gender stuff in. But this is where they get them. And so they can tell you with a straight face that it's not in the curriculum, because it's not. It's in this SEL, social and emotional learning, which is circle time. Do you guys know about circle time? Who knows about circle time? Does anyone have kids in school and they do this circle time in the morning? And they do this from preschool all
I'm guessing it's not where you all get under the parachute anymore.
No.
I love that.
So they play games, and in fact, this is happening tomorrow in my 7th grader's class, and I just opted her out of it because I knew about it, and I want her out of it. I don't want her.
Afraid for this.
And what I had heard from other students was that during this circle time, the counselor had asked very deeply upsetting questions about abuse. And basically the kinds of games that they would play is that the counselor would say, all right, if anyone has had experience with being hit by a parent, step forward or raise your hand. But
again, I hope none of them are Italian. They'd be like, yeah,
right? Like, well, the wooden spoons count.
I answered back. I had it coming.
But I mean, it would be, and this is where they will bring up the stuff about gender and about pronouns and about all this stuff that's not technically in the curriculum, but it's in this social emotional learning. So please, 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 parents, pay attention to SEL. You can email your principal tomorrow and say, could I have a copy of that SEL program you guys are learning? I would love to see that. I would just be real non-confrontational. Just be like, I would love to see a copy of it. I heard some good things about it, and they'll send it to you and you can read through what they're actually doing. And a lot of it, some of it is okay. Some of it is like, anti-bullying, which is never really anti-bullying, but it's some of it is innocent. But a lot of it is this probing into the child that causes deep discomfort. And I believe that's about breaking down barriers. And this is a grooming thing. This is what groomers do. Groomers, they push the boundaries, they push the envelope with children where they just keep moving further and further through the child's comfortable levels, like where they teach them to be uncomfortable a little at a time until they get comfortable with the uncomfortableness of these questions. And I'm sorry, but if a child says to me, that made me feel uncomfortable, don't do it. You shouldn't be doing it. If any child says, that made me feel hinky, made me feel weird, I felt embarrassed, I didn't know, they shouldn't be doing it. So pay very close attention to SEL.
And I think, just a side note, you just made me think of this, but I think that could be another thing that parents could equip their kids with is language like that. Teach them to assert themselves and use words like that. No. That makes me uncomfortable. No, thank you. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so here's the problem with that, though, Mike. It's great that, like, yes, I have my 16-year-old will tell you to go F off all day long. Like, she will tell you, no, I'm not doing this. Like, she's a girl after my own heart.
My girl, me too.
My 13-year-old, she's much more shy when it comes to being able to assert herself with adults. She doesn't feel like she can. She feels she's a rule follower. She doesn't want to make the teacher upset. So she wrote the thing today, knowing she shouldn't, knowing she didn't want to, but did it anyway because she was trying to please this teacher. So it's kids like her where you can talk to them and say, look, you can advocate for yourself and you can stand up for yourself. But if they're not there at the maturity level yet, they won't be able to. And the anxiety that it induces in a kid like that who's shy or scared of a teacher or authority figure, it's not okay for teachers to put these kids in that situation. It's just not okay. And I think I explained that to her teacher in a way that was hopefully conducive to a conversation. I tried not to be confrontational about it, but I said to the teacher in the email, I want to impress on you how difficult it is for a child to stand up to you, an adult, about her belief system. She can't do it. she's not equipped. She's 13. She's learning, but we're getting there. And look, to the people in the chat who are like, homeschool, I did homeschool for many years, and I set the foundation for my children, which is why I think that they're all doing very well and everybody's fine. But she can't stay in homeschool forever, and you have to encounter the real world as it exists and learn how to deal with it and learn how to stand up for yourself and learn. So we're working through that right now, and hopefully this will help her and teach her to get her convictions in line and be able to just say no. No is okay for kids to say. And we should be teaching them about their boundaries and about saying no, because COVID taught them that they could never say no. COVID taught them that they were property of the state, that they had to cover their face. They had to stand on a sticker, and they had to follow all these rules. And there is a time when a human being has to say no. You will go this far, but no further. And I'm teaching my girls that they can say that. And I believe everybody who has children needs to impart to them very seriously. You have a line, and that line will not be crossed. And you can say no to any of this garbage.
I do want to add, there are some times, and this is sad, I guess, if your child is vulnerable, like not everyone has a child that can say no. Not everyone has a child who's going to be strong enough to resist some of this stuff. Schools are not necessarily a safe place, and you might have to pull your kid from school. If your child is already marching down this path towards this transness, you got to get them out. You have to pull them out of school. You have to get them out of the environment
that is harming them. Get them
environment
offline.
is psychologically harming them. And if you don't do it, you might lose the right as a parent to stop the physical harm of your child, because the state is, in certain instances, taking children away from their parents simply for not affirming this delusion. There's a mom named Abigail Martinez in California. Her little girl, Yaley, who grew up just a normal girly girl wearing princess dresses and all that sort of stuff, got into high school, started hating her body, started getting teased, went to the lunchtime or after school club called the Gay Straight Alliance or the Queer Straight Alliance, where they indoctrinate these children to believe they might be born in the wrong body, and they give them free food, and these kids get love bombed like in any cult. And where they're struggling and they have no friends in life, this is where these misfits are finding their friends and getting this love and attention they desire. And guess what? The school started socially transitioning this girl, Yaley, without her mom's knowledge. They specifically hid this from her mom because her mom's Catholic. They're from El Salvador. They were immigrants. I've met her mom. She's beautiful, wonderful. She's nice as can be. When she found out this was going on months later, she even went along with the name change. She even went along with the pronouns just to get along. But guess what? Mom knew that testosterone was not the best thing for her daughter, because mom knows her little girl. These psychologists, these social workers have known this girl for hours, and they are driving a wedge in between the parent and the child because they have this savior complex where they think that they are going to save this child from the bigoted parent who doesn't want the kid to be who they really are. So this girl, who mom was going along with this social transition business, but she wasn't going to go along with the testosterone, the state of California took her into custody, put her in a group home, and while she was still separated from her mom, getting testosterone from the state of California, this girl knelt down in front of a train. And the police had to pick her body up in pieces. The state of California killed that girl. So parents are losing their rights. A father here in British Columbia went to jail for 6 months last year for speaking out against his daughter's transition, which he was powerless to stop at the age of 13. He couldn't stop her from going on testosterone. There's all sorts of cases like this. This isn't a joke. This isn't some little thing that's going on. This is a massive cult that's permeated all of our society. And if your child's getting affected by this, you have to remove them from all sources of this contagion. And you have to work on your bond with that child, get them out into nature, move to another country if you have to.
Yes.
Because your child's life is
It's
in
that
danger.
serious. I agree with you 100%. And the people that I know of who have been successful in stopping the gender dysphoria or rapid onset gender dysphoria have actually done that, have moved from a state to a different state, moved to a different country, taken away all internet access. And look, your child will not die without the internet.
Yeah.
Most of us remember a time before there was the internet and everyone was much happier. We all know this. We know it. And yet we continue to live our lives online. I don't know why. It's like the Borg. I can't explain it, but we all know that it's bad for us. We all know that it is hurting children, especially kids whose brains are not developed properly. So please stop with the, well, I couldn't take it away from them because it's their favorite thing. Yeah, you really can. And you need to make their new favorite thing staring at clouds outside. That's your new favorite thing. Your new favorite activity is fresh air and exercise. Done.
I know a mom in California. She's got a documentary coming out. I'm not sure how much I can say here. But her daughter got affected by this. So she moved out of the city, Los Angeles, where she's worked her whole life, left her career, moved up into the mountains. Got her daughter a job working on a farm. And dad stayed in Los Angeles to pay the bills. This is what families are having to do. But her daughter's doing better. You have to remove them from the source of this contagion at whatever cost. You have to do it, because if you don't, you might not have the choice to stop it, because so many states are taking parental rights away as well. And we haven't touched on that very much, but the left is also attacking parental rights and stripping those as much as they can. And in California now, by the way, they've just sent a bill to be signed by the governor, Gavin Newsom, who of course will sign it. California is now a sanctuary state for any kid from the country to run away from home to and get puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and even surgeries without their parents' approval. They will not return the child home. They will put the child into foster care. If the non-custodial parent kidnaps the child and brings them to California, they will ignore court orders from any other state. They will ignore subpoenas. They will ignore arrest warrants from any other state, so that the non-custodial parent can transition their child in the state of California.
How do we know that these children aren't going to be trafficked to California by pedophiles? I mean,
don't get me started, because I can talk about that too. There's a girl in Virginia who was trafficked to Maryland, to DC, and then to Maryland, and missing for months because some trans influencer online got a hold of her. And when she was eventually found by the police 2 or 3 months later, they didn't return her to her grandparents, who were her guardians from the age of 2. They didn't return her to her grandparents because her grandparents didn't acknowledge that she was a boy. So they kept her in state care in Maryland, where she escaped state care and was trafficked again and disappeared again for months into the sex trade. So there's all sorts of just total madness going on. And parents really got to get up to speed, because like anything in society, evil never presents itself as evil on the surface. It always has some happy face. And this is presented as helping a child to be who they really are and being loving and inclusive. And everything they do has some euphemism. It's not a radical elective double mastectomy. It's top surgery. It's not a phalloplasty or a vaginoplasty. It's bottom surgery. Yep. It's puberty blockers, which they say are just a pause button. No, these are chemical castration drugs. And there is no time machine to take you back in time years so that you can go through these years of puberty that you missed. Those years are gone. These boys have a micropenis for life. These girls' hips never expanded. They are sterilized. You don't get to go back in time and redo puberty. So the whole thing is just a whole bunch of lies. And I'm sorry if I'm getting too passionate here.
No,
you got to get passionate, because the scope of this, the breadth of this is mind-bogglingly huge. When I'm out on the street, wherever I go, when you come out on the street, if I come to your city, come out with me, because you truly don't understand how far this is spread until you go out on the street and you see all these young people who just become insanely angry with me because I have a sign that says children cannot consent to puberty blockers.
But they can't. And that's so true. Can I just say too, Chris, that I am so happy that you exist. One of the things that I have kind of railed about for years and been critical about is the lack of fathers who are standing up against this kind of thing. What I see in a lot of my reporting and my investigation is a lot of mothers, right? We've seen mothers coming out to board meetings and speaking at libraries, and just all these women who are speaking out for their children. And I very rarely come across fathers who are so dedicated to this. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. And we need more fathers, because, I'll tell you when this will change. It will change when the fathers get upset. Nothing will be done while mothers are upset. Believe me, it will not matter. But when dads decide we've had enough of this shit, it will change. So I'm just glad you're out there, Chris, as a mentor for other men who might want to help in this getting the awareness out there, because we need men. We need men desperately to save our children. It's going to take the men.
Yes, and I can attest, daddies love their baby girls and their little boys. Parents, moms and dads, there is no love in this world like that of a parent for their child. So the people who are going to end this are going to be the parents. It's going to be the moms and the dads. I'm super happy to be working with Moms for Liberty, which is this organization. It's only a year and a half old.
Yeah, I love
Tiffany Justice, my BFF in this fight, and Tina Deskovich started this organization a year and a half ago. They've already got 100,000 moms and dads and grandparents, because it's not just moms in this organization. But they are crazy uncles. Yeah, those two. They are a massive force to be reckoned with now. And so I'm working with these different chapters. I'm going to chapter meetings to help educate these people. I'm going to have 3 different speeches prepared very soon. I'm going to work on them tonight, actually. A 1-minute speech, a 2-minute speech, and a 3-minute speech. So parents can go to school board meetings, give these speeches, and raise hell. Because we have to raise hell. We get these viral moments from these ridiculous woke school board officials who try to push back on parents protecting their kids. And then we get these viral moments that reach millions. We get instances like what happened in Loudoun County, where the whole governor's race flipped 20 points in a matter of weeks because of this sort of issue. So, yeah, we just need to push back. And I mentioned earlier that it's mainly young women who are pushing this. It's also women who are fighting back against this mostly. The whole issue of gender is one that is female dominated. But people just don't understand, because the left has been very sneaky and very successful in getting this installed throughout our society. We now have all our corporations who are virtue signaling their progressivism by pushing this crap. We have here in British Columbia, you even have to declare your pronouns at the start of any court case. The government of British Columbia is going through every single government regulation on the books to remove gendered terms like mother, father, brother, and sister. Like, this thing is insane. And it's everywhere, and the left is pushing it, and none of the leftist politicians will stand up against it. So people on the left, you got to wake up, because it can't just be conservatives talking about this. And you got to forget about your friendships, because who cares about your friendships? Kids are getting sterilized, and I'm sorry, but that's a whole lot more important. You have to stand up for that and take the barbs that are going to come your way, because who cares if someone calls you a bigot? They just don't understand what's happening. So you got to learn how to message on this. And my one message for all the conservative politicians who might be watching this, or anyone for that matter, is this is a winning issue to talk about. You don't lose a single conservative vote. All you do is gain Democratic votes. Yep. You just have to learn how to message this with truth and compassion. And you don't need to exaggerate anything, because truth is already stranger than fiction. So if you want to learn how to message this, reach out to me and I'll help you.
It's not only that you're an encyclopedia on this topic and you literally put yourself in harm's way, but I was just thinking this. This never really occurred to me before in relation to connecting it to this topic. But I think, when I was a child, when I was 5 years old, the school wanted to put me, because I was the same personality I have now, that I talk a lot and I'm kind of crazy. And so that was bad. That was nonconformity. That was insubordination. So they wanted to drug me up on everything, put you on Ritalin, put you on antidepressants, put you on all this. And my dad, who is a saint, said, "Over my dead body." And I'm so thankful that I just wish that every parent could have the fortitude, whether it's because these things are designed to bring you into a system. With that, if that would have been allowed to happen, First, it would have been Ritalin and Adderall. Then it would be antidepressants. Then it would be opioids. Then it would be whatever they want to drug you up on next, maybe gender stuff. And it is the same thing that is happening with children of the same age today in preschools, in kindergartens. It starts with pronouns. It starts with speaking them and stuff. And then next thing you know, double mastectomy at 12 years old, hormones at 10 years old. And you have to shut it down at the source from the beginning and, like you said, raise hell.
Yeah, we do. That's it. Raise hell. We have truth on our side. We don't have to worry about a thing.
Well, I don't want to keep you guys all night. I know you have a lot of stuff to do, but if anyone has any final super chats you want to send us in, I should... side note, quick parentheses, I need to say two things. First of all, if you guys like my stuff, subscribe to my locals. I'm like planning on doing more kind of like group projects, something Grady's been talking about that, sorry Grady that I haven't like put it on, but it needs its own video. But Grady has been exposing a lot of what these schools are doing in terms of Chromebooks, that they're spying on these kids. So we're gonna do something with that together, some video or something. But yeah, join my locals. We have fun stuff. It helps support my work. We do movie night. We do like fun stuff. Also, so importantly, I have to say, thank you so much, Pirate Tomsky, the amazing Carrie Smith, what's his title? Producer, friend, moderator. I don't know what his title is, but he got me an amazing microphone. So hopefully I don't sound like shit anymore. I'm still figuring out how to like work the handle. So it's like, I'm getting it, but I'm like getting to be less of a mess. So, oh my God, that's just like the nicest thing.
You need one of these. You need one of these.
It has one of those. I just need to
you need to set that up because it stops the vibrations and stuff from making other noises. So as long as you don't bump into it, it's fine.
I just saw that. Thank God for your dad, Mike. And thank God for dads like Chris and moms like Megan and parents like so many of you here in the chat. That's all it's going to take is strength and speaking up.
And if I may, if I'm traveling around the country, most of my trips are now into the US. I'm doing Canada, of course. But if people want to support me, they can go to billboardchris.com. There is a donate button. That would be very helpful because I've been financing this all on my own. And it's expensive, but I'm finally getting some support picking up these days, so it's helpful. But mostly I just ask people to have conversations. But if you do want to support me, you can go there. And I wanted to say something else. First of all, thank you so much, Mike, for doing this.
Thank you.
Megan, for all you're doing. Oh, yeah. My schedule coming up. I'm going to be in DC next Wednesday and Thursday, 14th and 15th, whatever that is. I'm in Pennsylvania on the 16th and 17th.
Where in DC will you be? I want to send my sister to come see you.
Right in the heart of DC. I'm meeting with some Congress people on the 15th. I'm going to be on the steps of the Capitol with Alex Stein, primetime Alex Stein, 99.
Oh, I got to
send her.
She's got to go.
I'm going to be on the steps of the Capitol with him on the 14th.
On the 14th.
I'm actually doing his show on OAN tomorrow. The 16th, I'm in Pennsylvania. I posted my itinerary on Twitter. 17th, I'm speaking at a big event in Pennsylvania, 3,000 to 5,000 people. The 18th, I'm going to Boston Children's Hospital. And I would love people to come out with me there. I tweeted out a bunch of Boston Children's Hospital's own videos a couple weeks ago.
I saw those.
They went
You
viral.
broke that story.
It has been the biggest thing to happen since I've started this campaign. So many conservatives have finally woken up and are speaking out against this, and they're never going to stop now. So that was absolutely massive. So I'm going to be there on the 18th, and then I'll be up in Rhode Island on the 19th. So yeah, if people want to come out and hang out with me.
Maybe I'll try to come to the Boston one.
Yeah, it's only a couple hours, man. Do it.
Yeah, it's not far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate, anyone who can, go support this man because he puts himself on the bullseye. He has had his arm broken. He has had Antifa. He has had everything you can imagine, literally, to just stand up for children that are being abused and mutilated and brainwashed. So I always say, Chris, when you walk around, people just hear metal clanking in your pants. Do you remember when that entire block was yelling at us in the West Village?
Yeah,
the people sitting at the cafe tables outside were like getting up.
I love the the footage of you yelling back, Mike. It's so good to see you get all
that
hot
guy.
and bothered. You get so upset, and I love what comes out of your mouth when you get upset. It's too funny. You start flailing, your arms start talking with your hands. It's fantastic.
Italian gesturing intensifies.
Yes, intensifies. Yes.
Oh yeah, and I'm on Twitter at Billboard Chris. Now it's hard to find me because Twitter made my account 18 plus. So you have to enter birth date to follow me.
The irony.
I don't show up in the search bar at all, but if you type Billboard Chris and then click on it, you'll find it. You can also go to my website, and my Twitter feed is on there. So that's another way to find it. But it's at Billboard Chris, and that's where I really do all my campaigning. My website sucks. I need to work on it, but I'll get there.
This was sweet. Thank you so much for the wonderful podcast. My great guest, love Billboard Chris. You guys are amazing, and I want to say also, this woman, am I pointing? You guys have to tell me, am I pointing in the right direction? Oh my god, it's the first time I've ever pointed in the right direction. This is like, I need a gold star tonight. This woman is a freaking rock star. She's amazing in every way, in journalism, in YouTube. Subscribe to her channel. It is spectacular. She breaks so many stories, covers so many different things. So support her as well. This is why I wanted to have you guys together, because in this whole like wrong thinker movement, Chris is kind of like everyone's dad, and you're like your base mom. And I'm like the wayward son from the wrong side of the tracks.
Well, Megan, you'll have to come out on the street with me because I've got a mom sign just for you.
I would love it. I would love to. If you ever get to Rochester, New York, let me know, or maybe even Buffalo. I could probably travel to Buffalo. That's not too far.
Come back to the city, and then Megan.
I'm going to be in Rhode Island if you want to make that trip.
Rhode Island. I've never been to Rhode Island
either.
It's not too far.
It's nice.
It's beautiful. It's
New York City is like 7 hours from me, Mike. Did you know that? It's closer for me to drive to DC than it is to drive to New York City. That's how big New York State is. I know, we need to.
I haven't seen you. It was DC the last time I saw you.
Well, DC is always a good place for me to hook up with people, because it's a 6 hour drive, or 5.5 versus 7 hours to New York City. It's just faster. And my sister lives there, so I get to a free place to stay.
Is Boston far from you?
I don't know.
It's not. Maybe let's all go to Chris's thing in Boston.
Maybe I'll map quest it and see.
That's going to be fun.
Is that even a thing anymore? I don't even know.
I'm going to try. I'm going to try to make it.
Well, the Boston Children's Hospital is the belly of the beast. I don't know if you know this, Chris, but I want to send you, I got to get your email, because I need to send you these Rumble videos that I found with some other footage of Boston Children's Hospital, of an internal Zoom meeting that I don't know if you've seen yet. They were different than the ones that you posted. And oh my God, somebody leaked an internal Zoom about gender, what they do to kids. And it is outrageous. So I'll get your email.
Chris at billboardchris.com. Send it to me. Let's blow it up.
Okay.
Keep these guys on the hot seat.
Okay. Cool.
That's what I love. I think that is really the way out of all of this, is that we got to use. That's the one thing I hate giving the left credit, but they are very much all hands on deck. They get people from every walk of life, every industry, pushing their bullshit. So we need to do the same thing with positive things. So I think that's a cool thing that we're.
Yeah, they're very good at coordinating. They're very good at pushing a message out, and they're very good at elevating one another too, to do that. And conservatives are so bad at that. It's like
we need to elevate one another. That's exactly it. We need to elevate one another. There has to be no egos.
Right.
There's people online right now
who
have never liked a tweet of mine, yet they're fully in this gender fight. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, believe me, I know.
Believe me,
I don't get it. I retweet people all the time.
Ambulance
there should be
chasers.
no ego. You have to be humble. None of this is about us. None of this is about a brand or building a business or something like that. Like, we're much more powerful when we work together and we're nice to each other. Like, just be friends with everybody.
Yeah. I'm in such agreement with that, Chris. I can't even tell you. I have talked about this. Mike and I have talked about this. There is like an in crowd, and they just don't want any outsiders. I don't know why. So I know who you're talking about, but it's just never going to change. So we just have to, those of us out here on the fringes, we'll just keep working together and keep doing what we do.
That's what I always, that's what I always say too, is like, I feel like it's easy to feel like, oh, everyone just sucks and stuff. And I feel like when you're in this sort of sphere that we're in, you will meet the absolute scum of the earth, but you will also meet the most amazing, humble, passionate, genuine, sincere people in the world. These are two of them right here. Carrie Smith is one of them. Grady, all these amazing people in our chat. There's so many good people who do. So that's kind of how I've been feeling the past. So I'm like, I just want to get all the good people together, and everyone else can screw themselves.
Just not worry about what's going on over there. Yeah. You know, and people will come alongside you, the ones who really care about it and have the passion to do it and help you out. I know, Chris, I'm here for you whenever you need me. If you want to get something, you know, out there, you want it printed, I'll write it up. So you let me know.
Okay, you got it. I'm getting so much support from the U.S. I got hardly any from Canada, and I still get none from Canada. None of the media will report on anything. But the U.S. has been amazing ever since my first trip, ever since I was allowed to cross the border last November. So I'm super excited. We're just going to keep reaching more and more people, and we are going to win. This is not a problem. It's a guarantee. It's not an if. It's just a when.
It's just a when. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I love you guys. This is amazing. Do you guys have any like final thoughts?
That's it. Thanks, Mikey.
Support them. I always do on my streams like the word of the day. So if you guys have made it this far watching this, tweet us, send us stuff. Hashtag raise hell.
Nice.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys. You're the best.
Thanks guys.
Mike.
Bye, everyone.